Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Season 2 of Formula S. It's me, AJ. Mike is apparently running to slap a screaming baby or somebody else, I don't know. I just finally heard the screaming. But yeah, we got some cool things to talk about. We're covering Imola, Portugal, and Spain. And yeah, let's just put it this way: my notes go on to a second page, but that's partially because I have a photo in here.
I'm back.
Did you deal with your screaming baby?
Yes, I dealt with the screaming children. I hope. Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. So I have two small 22 and 23-year-old children in the apartment currently, who apparently can't be left alone with an oven.
Dude, knowing your friend group, they shouldn't be left alone with air.
Why do you say such a thing?
No, you know it's true. I get it. You wanna be the smart guy in the group. You wanna surround yourself with a bunch of dumb people. I know the approach.
Like, I understand it. It's an acceptable approach.
That's what I used to do in high school.
But yeah, we are here. I've got to say, so currently I'm not drinking from it, sadly. My girlfriend got me a Michigan mug. Remind me, next SWW show, I will drink from it the entire time.
What is it? Does it just say like Michigan on it, or
It's like one of those touristy mugs that lists everything about Michigan. So it says like Motor City or the Tulip Festivals or.
oh, don't bring up the Tulip Festival that's going on right now. And
I know she was there.
see, she's part of the problem.
Why?
That is so Holland is the town that runs Tulip Time. It's like an internationally known thing. It's a fest. It's like a 2-week festival around tulips. Now, don't get me wrong. Like some of the displays that they do are really cool. But as somebody that's lived in the area my entire life, those 2 weeks you either stay home or you get out of Dodge. Because a city of, I think the Holland Zeeland area normally has like 55 to 60,000 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this year wasn't that bad for obvious reasons, but there were years where they were bringing in like 250,000 people a day.
Jesus.
Just tour buses upon tour buses.
Yeah, when she said so we'll get to F1 in a second. So when she told me first off, her uncle lived in Detroit, I was like, "You're going where?" And then she said, So she did was her uncle lives in Grosse Pointe.
Okay, that's not Detroit.
I'm well aware. She lived there Friday. Saturday they went to Holland, and then Sunday they explored Detroit.
Well, that's a good way to cover like 600 miles.
Right. Naturally, all of us were giving her crap saying, "Are you going to Detroit on purpose?"
I mean, that city has a lot of really cool stuff to explore if you're into like, especially the history of America.
Sure, but it's still Detroit.
I mean, it is what it is. It's a Rust Belt city, right? Like, Chicago got away with being more than just industry. Like, it's a large. It's a shipping depot. Like that's what saved it. And cities like Detroit and Cleveland and Akron and to some extent Milwaukee and even Minneapolis. Like those cities didn't have anything to stand on.
Milwaukee and Matt and Minneapolis think a little different, but sure.
Well, not, I mean, they have rebounded better, but that's partially
Mhm.
because they weren't solely dependent on much in the same, like, Gary, Indiana,
Oh God.
Detroit, Cleveland, like, they all suffered the same fate, right? Like, the second that Chinese manufacturing started to get just stupid cheap to the point
Mhm.
of the car companies were like, guys, we can save billions of dollars. Once that happened, those cities were built on that. They didn't have a second industry to save them.
Mhm.
Um, and, so that's why everybody likes to laugh at Detroit for like declaring bankruptcy and all that, but I'm like, dude, look at the way New York, Chicago, like, look at the way those finances are run. If they didn't have their financial districts or, you know, uh, their shipping districts like Chicago has, those cities would have suffered the same fate.
Mhm.
So, yeah, people like to bash on Detroit because it's an easy target, but in reality, I think every city is teetering on what happened to Detroit.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't see Detroit hurting that much in the next burst
Well, maybe.
because a lot of it is homegrown stuff, right? It's a lot of homegrown industry and farming and local businesses. It's not dependent on the big three in the way
Well,
that it was in the in the late '90s and early 2000s.
mhm. Well, on that fun note, I think we're going to go from American cities now to some global cities. Today, let me get this right. We're here to talk about uh, Imola. How close am I?
Imola.
Or
Well, technically it's San Marino, I believe.
would I pronounce it correctly?
It was close enough, but I
I'm proud.
believe it's in the Principality of San Marino.
Mm.
I think.
And
I don't know.
then,
Italy's divided up into so many like principalities and sub districts that it's like a I give up. But so
and
we've got
then
Imola, we've got Portimao, and we've got Catalunya.
yep,
Those are the three cities.
which
Um,
which I don't know why we're marking it as Spain. Remember when the whole thing they tried to become their own country?
well, it's still technically a Spanish Grand Prix.
Okay, so yeah, looks like you have some random news for us.
Yeah, so we've got. We'll talk about it later. Excuse me, when we get to Spain, but um, Hamilton. I mean, he continues to break records, but he got his 100th pole position in Spain. And I really feel like this season is like if you're in the States and watch football, like when Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers and won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what this is. This is just continues to break records and just showcase dominance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Roman Grosjean is getting his test in a Mercedes, which this was kind of a small news story at the end of last season as he was retiring from F1.
Right.
Toto Wolff was like, hey, you know, if you don't get a seat in F1 for next year, call us. We'll let you test the car. And it's kind of cool because they're going to let him do it at his home Grand Prix in France.
Really?
Yeah. So he'll get to drive the fastest car on the grid in front of his home fans.
Hmm.
Now, in reality, this will probably take place on Thursday, so nobody's going to be there.
Of course.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. In between the last show and this show, the Miami Grand Prix was confirmed for 10 years. Not just confirmed that they're running it in 22, but It's got a 10-year deal with the city.
So that means every year for 10 years, or does that mean they just have to do 10 years worth of races?
The contract runs until 32 or 33.
So, I think with Country City, do they have some, like, financial guarantees on both parties, I assume? Because, like, to Miami, this is revenue.
Yeah, I mean, to Miami, this is tourist revenue out the ass. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what the Canadian Grand Prix does for Montreal in terms of tourist revenue is insane. Because they get, like, I think in 19 it was something like 400,000 people through the gates. That's overall
Jesus.
3 or 4 days. But, I mean, on race day in Montreal, it's like 120,000 people. So, that's 120,000 people that need a place to stay, food to eat, everything, right, for a
Mm-hmm.
weekend. So it obviously brings in a ton of money for the Miami area.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of F1, like it's going to be this is exposure, right? This is purely a exposure move to get F1 growing in the States.
Right.
So don't be surprised if you know, there's a couple Miami Heat players that they have doing stuff for the race and celebrities out the like this
Mm-hmm.
is this they're pulling no stops. You know they're going for it, and they were kind of smart because I think a lot of Americans would have seen like oh, they're going to Miami as like maybe a 1 or 2 year thing and then reconsider,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the way that financials have been for Austin. But them announcing like this is a 10-year deal gives South Florida hope that like this isn't a one and done, right? This isn't they're gonna try and make this something.
But this sounds like the race in which we try to go see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if we were gonna go see a race in 22, I would say either the Canadian race or depending on when this race in Miami is, potentially that. I think it would be an
Miami.
awesome night race, but
Oh, that would be cool.
I
Especially
don't.
because Miami it was so good temperature.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of lighting, like because they're running it in the basically the parking lot around Joe Robbie, which is Hard Rock Stadium now. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't, they would have to truck in a bunch of portable lights and stuff like that, but it's doable. I mean,
Just expensive.
yeah. I guess when we see the schedule for 22, we'll be able to tell like how dedicated is
Mm-hmm.
Liberty and F1 to get this race like not only eyeballs, but like serious support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Speaking of serious support and extending contracts, the Canadian Grand Prix was canceled again this year, but
Good.
they
From COVID.
yeah they did announce that they are extending its contract to I believe 2030.
Wow.
There were a couple tracks that extended contracts. Suzuka extended like 2 more years or something like that. I didn't put that in the news because it's like whatever, but yeah, so the Canadian Grand Prix was replaced with the Turkish Grand Prix, which I believe is how it happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Turkey fit into the slot that the Canadian race normally was. And to go along with some Spain news, Hamilton tied a record with his idol Ayrton Senna for a record 5 straight wins at a venue.
Hmm.
Now, this record I think is a little skewed because like somebody could have won 5 straight German Grand Prix, but they alternated locations.
Mm-hmm.
So the way this is worded and the way that they kind of put it out there was that this is one venue. Like Senna's was Monaco. He won Monaco 5 years in a row, which is extremely impressive. And Hamilton won Spain 5 years in a row. Which the funny thing is, the year so it started in 2017. The year before that is when Max Verstappen won his first race because Hamilton and Rosberg crashed each other out. So it's kind of a fun little like butterfly effect, right? Of like 2016 Spain in particular really changed Formula One. Like it's one of those races that it changed the way I think a lot of people viewed the sport and the way a lot of teams view the sport. So it's a it's an interesting race. If you ever get the chance to go back and kind of watch the events that not only led up to but then unfolded from that race, it's very, very interesting. And now on a completely different note, I tweeted out a couple weeks ago, I think it was at this point, a list of flags, right? It was a list of flags, and I was like, this is my 22 like dream schedule. Take a guess. If you watch our streams, we did a stream. Yeah, we talked about it when I was designing.
The racetrack.
Yeah.
Yep.
I designed a track at Daytona Airport, and I quick ran over this, but so this list of races is solely like we're taking contracts and deals and everything. We're just throwing it out the window. We're just taking the tracks that F1 has either run at before or could potentially run at. So these are all tracks that are like ready to go. They could in theory run this. I stuck Miami on there as the opening race because I think like Miami in February is beautiful. Right, like it's the one time of the year where that area is hospitable and comfortable, and it gives you a lot of options. And then we go to Bahrain. That track has delivered so many great races since it got on the schedule that I feel like if it wasn't on the schedule, a lot of fans would be bummed that it wasn't. Even though I don't necessarily think a lot of people would be like, "Oh yeah, Bahrain's a great track." But like it's one of those that
just expected.
Yeah, it's one of those that it's like, "Oh, it's not on there. Where'd it go?" And then we go to Baku because that is I think Baku is the new poster child for figuring it out right away. There hasn't been a bad race in Baku. Then we go to a track that we are going to talk about later. We go to Portimao, and what's the Portugal?
Right.
What's the thing? Then Turkey's on this list as its own thing. Like it's a really good track. It's it deserves to be on the F1 calendar. I think the problem that we run into in the real world is that some of the countries that like Turkey, for example, not exactly the most friendly to anybody that's any country that is buddy with the US. So the kind of the international shit show that could potentially cause is pretty big. But then we go on to what I've deemed and kind of called the historical part of the calendar. So these are all tracks that are like they're historical to F1, and they're either been there since the beginning or been around so damn long that it feels like they've been around since the beginning. So it kicks off by going to Monza. Everybody loves the Temple of Speed. Like that is also it's got the best fans I think in F1. Right, the Tifosi love Ferrari. They show up to that race, and it's amazing. It's just such a cool atmosphere. We cross the Atlantic and we go to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Again, for kind of the same reason that like Monza is on this list. Like it's been around forever. Everybody loves it. It's a driver favorite too. So, and then we go to the American Temple of Speed in Indianapolis. So if you were wondering, if you were kind of trying to guess at home, I had 2 American flags on there. This is the second one. There is no Austin. I'm just letting people know.
I thought that was going to be one.
I took, some of the tracks off that they have run or are going to run because I think they're bad. We go to where it all started at Silverstone. We go to Monaco because Monaco I wanted to leave off this because it's a terrible, terrible race. But it's the pageantry.
Mm-hmm.
It's the, this is the equivalent of needing to play baseball at Wrigley Field. Right? It's really not built for modern baseball, but it's the pageantry of playing at Wrigley. That's the same thing with Monaco. Then we go to Spa, because it's Spa. It's amazing. We go to the Hungaroring, which the reason this is in the historical section, the Hungaroring was actually the first race behind the Iron Curtain. I think it was in '84.
Wow.
They went there when the Soviet Union was controlling Hungary. So
that's like during the American, really like.
What's that?
That's like the height of the Cold War too. That's
it was '84, I think, if I remember right.
Because Reagan did start toning down to like 85, 86 is kind of like the calmer.
Then we go to Hockenheim because that track, like, not only is it beautiful, right? It's in the middle of forest. It is leaving Germany off of any racing calendar is a bit of a slap in the face for European motorsports. Because a lot of the history is German companies, German drivers, German races. So I didn't have Nürburgring on here because I don't really like the GP circuit there. I think the Hockenheim Ring is a better track. That's why I chose that one. We go to France, but we go to a track that we're not running. Magny-Cours. This is where the French Grand Prix used to be.
Okay.
I believe it's 2008.
I'm confused though. I don't see a white flag on the thing.
Haha, very funny. That being said, I didn't put it on here because I don't think it's really worth talking about. But my plan was to move preseason testing from Spain to Paul Ricard. Because Paul Ricard is a test track. Like, if you look at that track from above, there's so many different layouts. And, Paul Ricard was designed as a grade 1 test track, basically.
Wow.
So, it boggles my mind that they don't test there. And that they're stuck in Spain. Then we go to Spielberg for the Red Bull Ring. This race is I mean, it's kind of the end of the historical, but also not because there's been an Austrian race for since the 80s or 90s. So, it's not necessarily like it's not on the magnitude of the one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine races before it.
Hmm.
Um, but it is, you know, it's another one that it's a lot like Bahrain, right? If it wasn't on the schedule, people would make a fuss. But I don't know if people love the track. Also, it draws an insane crowd, so that's why it's on here. We go to Fuji, our first of two Japanese Grand Prix. They used to race at Fuji. It was a lot like Suzuka and Fuji were a lot like the Nürburgring and Hockenheim. They were switching off the Japanese Grand Prix. So it's been run before. It's beautiful. You see, like, the pitch straight looks at Fuji. So, like, the drivers are barreling down the pitch straight, and Mount Fuji is right in front of them. Like, it's just one of those, spectacle races. Then we go to Malaysia because I think Malaysia is one of the races that when it got cut from the schedule, a lot of F1 fans were kind of sad that it had to be cut because it is a lot of F1 fans, if not their most favorite, like their second favorite track designed by Herman Tilke, who's the designer for F1 now. And depending on when you run it, you could potentially run it during monsoon season. And they have done that before, and it's awesome. So, it's a fun one. We go to Singapore because it's a city race at night. It is...
Your favorite?
It's awesome. Like, watching Singapore is so cool. You get the sparks flying off the cars. Even, it's more magnified because it's at night and everything. So, we go back to Japan for Suzuka. We go down under to Albert Park. I wanted to look to see if Adelaide was a grade 1, and it wasn't. So, Aussie fans, that's why it's Albert Park and not Adelaide. Adelaide is not a grade 1 track. So, they would need to do whatever work they would need to do to get it up to grade 1. They would have to do that, and then they could potentially be on the list. And then we go to the only track that should ever end a season, Aerodromo Jose Carlos Paeth. I believe that's how Portuguese would pronounce it. They, don't they kind of, kill their S's?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brazil, great track, much the same way that Abu Dhabi is a snooze fest as a last track. Even if the championship was decided by Brazil, it still could throw up major just chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Abu Dhabi's it's pretty flowy, and then you get into the marina section, and it's just a bunch of sharp turns, and you're like, okay, this is dumb. So yeah, I will. I'll tweet that out. I'll tweet out the photo with everything, with all the titles when this episode goes live, so you can look it over. So yeah, and now we get into effectively 3 snooze fests. We start off with Imola, and I'm going to say this once during the episode because I feel like I could say this basically the entire show. Nikita Mazepin continues to just make a farce of the F1 process. if he's not spinning and crashing, he's holding people up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's, I mean, the fact that, so the idea, right, is that you need to accrue enough points on a super license to
Okay.
then race in F1. It's kind of a talent barrier, but you know, the lower series can easily be bought out,
Makes sense.
which is how Mazepin made his way to F1. His daddy just bought the best team and put him in there. Um, and it's really sad because there are plenty of other drivers that are more deserving of the seat, but Haas needs money, right? They're not a sustainable business as they are right now. So they need somebody with money to come in and help them out. So that's what Mazepin did. I have a feeling you'll see Earl Colley. I don't know how you pronounce that brand. I have a feeling you'll see them either buy out Gene Haas or potentially look to buy a larger stake in the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because Gene Haas, I feel like, wants to get out of it. But the problem is the team imploded, so it's kind of tough to sell. It's hard to sell a dumpster on fire. So, yeah, it's just, I feel like I could spiel for an hour and a half about why Mazepin shouldn't be in F1. But we did have some funness because it rained at Imola. It's northern Italy. It'll do that. And it stopped raining before F1 started to get ready on Sunday. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, some guys were very hesitant about what tires to use, whether they use full wets or whether they use inners. Didn't seem to matter because everybody was a spinny boy on the formation lap. I think there were like 4 or 5 cars that spun off or went off track during the formation lap. It was a clown show. It was pretty funny to watch. But race starts and we go into Tamburello, which is the first chicane, and Max was in front, so he's entitled to the position. Takes the racing line, and Hamilton tries to stay in it, and gets knocked off into the curb. And it was like the next lap or 2 laps later, and Hamilton comes over the radio of like, he should have given me the space. Like, I was there, I deserved the space or whatever, trying to plead his case to the FIA of like, give Max a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the rules, Max was ahead into the corner, and so he's entitled to the racing line, which through Tamburella is basically you clip the left curb, you clip the right curb, clip the left curb, and you effectively can kind of straight line it that way. It's still a left-hand turn, but you can kind of straight line the chicane by doing that. And that's what Max did. And Lewis got pissed. And I feel like this is... If Hamilton had made this move,
Mm-hmm.
Sky, which is... So, the problem with F1 coverage for the vast majority of people is it's run through Sky, which is based in the UK. So they are homers for Hamilton.
I mean,
And
Sky isn't government run, is it?
no, that's the BBC. Sky is kind of like Turner is here in the States. Like
Okay.
they're private run, but they compete with a lot of the, like Sky competes regularly with the BBC for sports and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, much in the same way that like Turner can. I understand ESPN is not government owned. It
Mhm.
effectively is because it's owned by the government of Disney. But Turner competes with the big dog, and sometimes lands some big contracts, right? Like they land major NBA deals and things like that. So that's kind of what Sky does, and then they put F1 behind a paywall. But but yeah, if Hamilton hadn't made that move, Sky would have loved it. They would have been like, "Oh man, what a great heads up move."
Mhm.
And the nice part is they didn't really. Martin Brundle didn't really condemn Max's move. Like he was like, "Yeah, Max was ahead. He deserved the spot." So it's kind of nice that they didn't just like fall over and fall to their knees in front of the god of Hamilton. But um, I definitely saw some discourse on Twitter of like, you know, Max, Max was in the wrong. Was effectively a lot of stuff that I saw. I'm like, nah, dude. You know, this is the age old tale of, uh, you know, guy does something that you don't like, but if he was your favorite driver, you would cheer for him for that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah. Latifi was a spinny boy this time during the race. Goes to rejoin. Mazepin is involved in the crash, but Mazepin did the right thing. He held his line. And Latifi just basically drove right into him. So the one time where you will see me praise Mazepin was for his reaction during that. Um, and then you have the complete opposite. You have Schumacher who's trying to warm up his tires and spins it down the pit straight. I swear his engineer could I don't know, just he could calm anyone down. Like I want him to be the guy that tells me like, okay, you have cancer, it's terminal, you'll be fine, we'll get through this. Like if you listen to Schumacher's radio, it's crazy. It's just like it's so fun to listen to because Schumacher goes off on himself a lot. He's very hard on himself. And then his engineer just keys his mic. You're doing fine, Mick. We'll get through this. We'll be all good. Meanwhile, like the front wing is sliding down the track. Um, and yeah, another German that was having his fair share of struggles, Sebastian Vettel. I swear, that dude cannot catch a break in Aston Martin. Just struggle bus all day. Uh, it was kind of sad to see. Um, and there was a safety car period, and during it, Perez slid off into kind of a runoff in the gravel. And there were two cars, it was a McLaren and somebody else, overtook him when he was off track. And he rejoined the track and passed the other two cars to regain his position. Now, he's in the wrong, but I think the way he was thinking was right. Because if for some reason, like, somebody gets ahead of you during a safety car, you need to get in front of them, regain your position. But yeah, he got bopped with a 10-second penalty, which
Good. That's a let.
that's a decent penalty. I probably would have given him a 5. Like I'd have been like, dude, just be smart about it. And I don't think they were necessarily like. I think the reason it was so severe was the way that he tried to get his positions back.
Mm-hmm.
like if he, not slowly, but if he rejoined the track and kind of matched pace plus 20%, so you could get back in front of him in a orderly manner. But he was like, get on the track, floor it, try to get in front of him. So I think that's why it was so harsh. Um, but they go back racing. Hamilton, like, this is, we'll talk about it later when we're talking about this race. Even though there was a dry racing line developing, apparently, like, the ambient temperature was like 50
Jesus.
during the race. So, like, the rest of the track wasn't dry. Right? It wasn't, the water that was there was there. So he got offline and basically just hydroplaned his way across the gravel. He got very lucky though. He nosed into the barrier, but he must have been on the brakes like the entire time because he like, kind of just noses into the barrier, knocks the front wing off. Not a ton of damage, but he kept the car on top of the gravel. So if you slam on your brakes when you're going into the gravel, the car will want to dig down in. So what it looks like happened was Hamilton effectively did all of his braking before the gravel trap. So he tried to slow the car down as much as he could before just letting it run across the gravel. And he probably geared it, down so that the engine could help brake it a little bit. But yeah, he goes into the barrier, knocks the front wing off, has to go around and get into him. Who was not so lucky though was Valtteri Bottas and George Russell. So this was the talk of the town the week that it happened, and it's the most of the reason it was the talk of the town was because of kind of the fallout after it. Valtteri was chilling on the left. Russell was coming up behind with DRS. Goes to overtake Valtteri, and Valtteri goes to block George, which is a valid thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Russell just like, I don't know if he misjudged the closing distance or how much track he had or what, but he like instinct jerked the wheel right a little bit to shift the car over, drops a wheel in the wet grass. Immediately the car spins around, it collects Valtteri, and they go sliding off into the gravel. And it was just, it was a disaster. Kind of the discourse around this though was, George got out of his car first, walked over to Valtteri's car and like bopped a Valtteri on the head, like as a like, dude, what were you doing, kind of thing. From the sounds of it, George's responses in the post-race press conference may have started to sever the connection with Mercedes. Like, he was seen as Valtteri's replacement in that car.
Mm-hmm.
Now with this, which George has kind of come out and retracted some of his statements and been like, I overreacted, kind of thing. So, yeah. That'll be a situation to continue watching. Imola was still super, super damp. There were several people that tried to go out on dry tires on slicks. And which, if you were on the racing line, was fine. But if you veered ever so slightly either side of it, you were going in the gravel. There were like 3 or 4 cars that found that out. Max goes on to I would say a pretty easy win. Lewis recovered after his crash to get second. Lando Norris gets on the podium. So that was that's a fun thing to see. That kid is going to go far. And then we get to go to Portugal. And if you thought the garage at Mercedes was a little fiery after the whole Bottas Russell situation, that was not the case when Bottas got his pole position here. They cut to the Mercedes garage after Bottas got his pole, and it was like nothing was going on. They were just like, oh, checking their computers, whatever. Meanwhile, if Hamilton had gotten a pole, that place would have been off the wall. So I was like, not a great look, guys. A lot of people were wondering, like, oh, is this because, they wanted Hamilton to get his 100th there, things like that. But, yeah, not a great look on the Mercedes end, especially when there's kind of this discussion of, and we'll get to it in Spain, like, Valtteri has made comments of, like, I'm a racing driver. I'm here to race people, not let them pass. It was in regards to a couple. It was to the Russell. I believe that quote was from the Russell incident. He's like, I'm here to defend my position, not just let people pass. Which is the right stance. I think the thing about Valtteri is he shoots it straight. And sometimes people don't want to hear it straight. So even though he'll say the right things, the interpretation of his message can get a little interesting. But yeah, there are exactly 4 more notes for 60 some odd laps of the Portugal race because it was a snooze fest.
I was going to say, literally, your Portugal notes are 5 notes.
Yep. Kimi made like a weird rookie mistake. He was trying to overtake his teammate with DRS. And like if you look at Kimi's onboard, he effectively drives into the back left tire of Giovinazzi, just like he's going to overtake him and like doesn't get over far enough. He lines up his right front with Gio's left rear and just like go. And it knocked off his front wing. He was smart. It seemed like he was smart enough to kind of let off as he was about to hit him, so he didn't hit him at acceleration, so he didn't really spin around. There's a great pass from Hamilton on Verstappen that just showcases what kind of the system's designed for overtaking can do if used properly. Hamilton's got DRS and he's using his overtake, his ERS, and just down the pit straight, catches up to him and just neatly passes him and goes into T1. Okay, that's what those systems are designed to do. Very rarely does that actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so they end up pitting, pit stops, cycle through. Max pit like a lap before Valtteri, I think it was. Goes on to the hards. And Bottas responds, goes on hards, and like, he was just in front of Max. He got out just in front of Max. And I get that Max is a superior driver to Valtteri, like talent-wise, but he really showed off how much heat into a tire can change how it drives. Because there's so T1 is kind of like a fast right, and then there's a sharper right. And as Valtteri's coming out of that sharp right to go uphill to take a left, he gets squirrely. Like, there's no heat in his rear tires other than, what the tire blankets do. And so he kind of just lights him up, and Max just, like, goes right on by as if it was nothing. So it's kind of a, there are some cool things this season that we've seen of, like, oh, that's how DRS is supposed to really work, not just, like, artificial overtakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how using your battery power can help defend or attack. And now we've seen how tires, just even a lap, right? Even driving around on hards for a lap, which the hards are going to gain heat the slowest because they don't move as much.
Mm-hmm.
So even just that one lap, which Portugal's a fairly intense lap in terms of elevation change and how hard the turns are. But yeah, so that was pretty crazy. Portugal was a great race if you love mid pack racing.
Okay.
Because the Alpine cars did great, the Ferraris did great, the McLarens did great. Like, I think the point scores were the Mercedes, one Ferrari, both Red Bulls. So that's what 4, 5, both Alpines 6, 7, both McLarens 8, 9, and then somebody else. So, the mid pack this year is super super strong.
But not strong enough to be the top pack.
No, I think so. Like on their day, right? Like we saw at Imola, McLaren can run with the big boys,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to run with the big boys due to strategy, not through just out and out pace. So, I think the way that a McLaren gets onto the podium is the second drivers for Red Bull and Mercedes, so Valtteri and Sergio, they just have bad races through whatever, right? Through strategy, through mistakes, through accidents, things like that. I think that's the only way you see them stepping onto the podium, unless they get like a race where they could do it on pace. Is Monaco. Like if Ricardo or one of the Ferrari guys, I mean Lando could do it, but if they somehow get their car onto the second row in Monaco, I think you could see them like potentially pulling off a surprise upset, like either win or second. So, yeah. And then we get on to the ultimate of the European snooze fest, Catalunya. This track sucks for racing.
I was gonna say, you seemed very excited. I think we talked about last time. You were like super excited for this track.
No, I hate this track. And the reason I hate it so much is they use it for preseason testing.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of like the idea of preseason testing is that you test, you figure out how the car is going to do, and then you go on with the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird that you test and then come back to the test track and you're like, oh hey, we're going to run a race now.
Yeah, it does feel like it should be a separate.
Yeah. And I think the reason Spain becomes a snooze fest is everybody just knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've already done all of their race simulations, all of their tire wear studies, everything. They're just like, okay, basically, hit play and let's see this through. And I mean, sometimes you get good battles like Max and Hamilton at the start of the race going into 1 and 2. Max is super aggressive again. And Lewis could have tried to push potentially Max out of the way. They were kind of nose to nose. But Lewis lets Max through because it seems like Lewis understands that Max is kind of his adversary for this championship. Yuki Tsunoda ends up going out due to some engine bugs, which that guy, he's awesome. Like watch his interviews, he's hilarious. I think it's partially because his English isn't amazing.
Hmm.
So it's him, like, F1 does these things where, like, they interview the drivers and they put it up and things like that. And they asked him, like, what's the first thing you do when you get home? And a bunch of them are like, the young guys that don't have any family are like, oh, we go play video games or whatever. And so Yuki said that. And they're like, oh, what game do you play? And, they've got all kinds of different answers. Yuki goes, oh, the shooting game. And that was the end of the video. Like, that was the last quote. I'm like, dude, you're awesome. I have a feeling he means, like, Call of Duty, I would guess. But
I assume he means Warzone is my guess.
Fortnite, like, he's young enough, I think he's 19, that he's a Fortnite. He's Fortnite generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would assume, as you say, it's Warzone. Just when he says shooting game, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it could be something else. Who knows? The only reason I didn't assume Warzone was he's Japanese, and I don't know if Call of Duty is big in Japan.
I don't know either.
Even though he's living in Europe, but unless there's some Japanese game that's a shooter that I don't know about, but
that's possible. That's my weakness too.
We've got a new blue flags message from a German. He's technically Austrian. Toto Wolff comes over the radio talking to Michael Massey, who's the race director now that Charlie Whiting passed. And he comes on the flag. It comes on the radio. Blue flag, blue flag. His deep Austrian German accent. Whereas you have, there's famous radio bites from Vettel of blue flag, because he's got a bit of a higher voice. And surprise, surprise, Toto was talking about Mazepin. What else is new? Perez on Ricardo, they go into 1 and 2. Pull up the highlights of this race and watch that. It's like halfway through.
Okay.
It is a display of car control. Like, they go through 1 and 2, and there's inches between the two of them. And they're following, like, the exact same, like, Ricardo was on the outside. Ricardo's following the line that he wants, plus a car and, like, 3 inches.
Whoa.
It's crazy. Like, they're in sync as they go around the corners. It's nuts. Yeah. So, and then we get to another of Bottas's. I'm a racing driver, not a passing. I'm here to race, not for cars to get past me. Mercedes comes over the radio. Hamilton happened to be behind him, and on a different strategy, they asked Bottas to not hold Hamilton up. Was their radio message. Effectively let him by. Immediately proceeds to defend Hamilton through a couple corners. So, I mean, I feel like he's doing the right thing, right? Like, he was brought into Mercedes to race. He wasn't brought in to be, Hamilton's step stool. Right? He was brought in to be a driver. And so that's what he's going to do. He's going to drive. So I'm definitely on Bottas' side. Until he, if he clearly fucks over Hamilton by doing this, then maybe we start to look at it and go, okay, look, know when to hold him, know when to fold him, right? Situation like that. But yeah, so we're through 4 races. Verstappen's only down 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
this is a gap that, it's if Verstappen wins and somehow Hamilton's got, mechanical problems or something like that and ends up in like fifth, Verstappen could take the lead. This gap is kind of artificially closed because of the fastest lap. You get a point that they introduced a couple of years ago. Which, I mean, they used to have that back in like the 50s and 60s. So it's not necessarily like a new thing. They just didn't have it for a while, so it's a lot of people are kind of up in arms about whether they should like it or not. But yeah, that's everything there is to know. It took exactly as long to do the races as it did for the news and stuff.
God, this was not a good set of races.
No. Functional cookie.
Do you expect the next tracks to be better?
So I'm pulling up the schedule because. Don't care. Schedule. We have got. I mean, Monaco's up next. That. Again, spectacle race, but pretty much a snooze fest. And then we've got Azerbaijan, so we got Baku, and then Turkey, and then we have a week off. So we have 3 races here, and Baku always throws up, like, again, that's Lady Chaos. Right, anything can happen. Hell, Stroll put a Williams on the podium at Baku. So I feel like of the 3 between Monaco, Baku, and Turkey, Baku is number 1, most exciting. Turkey's number 2, and Monaco's a distant 3rd. The only thing that can save Monaco is if it happens to rain. Then it's it's interesting, to say the least. So, yeah.
Well, anything else do you have for the people for this? Not the best set of races.
No, I am extremely disappointed.
Okay. Well, hopefully next time, people, when we get back, it'll be less disappointing. As always, keep an eye on our stuff. Keep an eye on our Wednesday streams. And yeah, streams are going to get weird in the next month because with me moving, but AJ and I will figure that out. But just keep an eye on everything, and we will be back.
We'll be back. Don't know when, but we'll be back.
This episode is partially brought to you by the Humble Choice program. Did you know Humble Bundle has a great monthly subscription service that lets you get a ton of video games every single month? That's right, from plans range from $5 to $20 a month, you get a hold of a bunch of free games they have available to you. And you could use our code down in the description below to go and sign up. It would help our podcast and help you see what great games are available for you this month.
This podcast was a production of The SWW Show. To learn more, go to theswwshow.com. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at TheSWW Show. You can follow me at Mikey_Maroney. You can follow AJ at LowSeatBoy. Remember, new episodes premiere on Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time on anchor.fm/SWW and podcast services around the globe.